Hey everyone, I hope you guys are doing really well today. Thank you for joining my YouTube video and this channel, so make sure to subscribe and you'll get more of these as we go. I wanted to pop up today to just talk to you guys a little bit more about sort of the concepts around truth and reconciliation. Now the projects that I'm working on, there is a video that talks about all of those things, and I will also link to it in the description box so you guys can check that out. I would love for you guys to participate and donate in any way that you can, or purchase whatever you can, and however your heart leads. And you're welcome to send me a DM if you have any questions. But for now, I wanted to just bring up a couple of things that I've been reading in the past couple of days. I definitely read across the board to things that people are discussing and things that people are writing, and want to be able to put some of those concepts together. You know, one of the things I was reading on Twitter yesterday was someone commented on the fact that Advent is a time of waiting. It's a time of anticipation. It's a time of longing, and sometimes it's not an easy time to actually sit with. In fact, that's what Advent is. Advent is about being able to sit with it. Sit with the season, sit with the moment, sit in the present. And it's almost separate from, say, the Christmas holidays. Now, we can actually talk about Advent, move it away from the Christian tradition a little bit, and move it into sort of the winter solstice season, right? The winter is a time for cultivating patience. Sometimes winter is a time where it's really cold outside, or in some parts of the world where it's really hot outside. And we have to learn to sit in the heat, and we have to learn how to sit in the cold, and that can be incredibly comfortable. But it's also a place where birth begins, or where there might be a renewal, or a reconciliation. But it's in those moments when we need to sort of sit in the present, when we need to cultivate the discomfort that gets us to that place. And that means sitting with the truth. And that can be really, really difficult to do. And I am not exempt. I'm not exempt from it. But sitting in the discomfort, sitting in the grief, sitting in the truth is actually sort of our greatest way out, right? It's the idea of moving through rather than moving on. And I think that it's really important that as we sort of sit with this season, that we begin to understand that element of ourselves and our communities, and we take stock in that, and we value that, and we value the grief that needs to be expressed, and we value the gratitude that is expressed within those moments. In fact, having gratitude for the grief, I think, can be incredibly important. I was recently watching Carolyn Mice, who's an extraordinary teacher, and she was talking about how people use their spirituality to get to healing, rather than using spirituality to get to truth. And I appreciate her for saying that, because the way that I take that, the way that I hear that, is ultimately when you use your practice, your belief, your spirituality, to get to a truth, a deep truth within, the holy language within you, right? Whatever that practice might be, your healing is going to come as a byproduct of it. Reconciliation is going to come as a byproduct of it. And ultimately, seeking out truth, coming to terms with a truth, coming to terms with yourself or your community or the reality of the world around you, is sometimes going to be incredibly uncomfortable. Friends of mine who have had children will all tell you that pregnancy is incredibly uncomfortable, right? The painstaking process of planting a garden, planting seeds, waiting for it to grow, watering it, making sure it gets sunshine. All of these things are a painstaking process. But the process is actually what's most important, and the process forces us to become present with the moment, present with ourselves, present with another person that we love, present with our community in the state that it's in. It's giving permission for grief to be visible. And we need to do that not only for ourselves, but for the ones we love and the communities we're part of. It's finding the acceptance of yourself, the inclusion of yourself, and the embracing of yourself. When we can do that, when we can find value in that, when we can bring ourselves to know that, then we have the ability to sit with it. We have the ability to understand the Advent season, or to understand the winter solstice season, and then we can also cultivate what it is that we want to go after in this life. we can cultivate with our partners what it is we want to develop, what we want spring to produce. But it can't come without patience and without cultivation. We can't. Our resistance to it will make it harder, will make it more difficult, will make it more complicated. So, wherever you are in the world today, however you practice, find just a few moments, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, to just sit with yourself, or to sit with your partners, or to sit with your communities, and listen, and hold the space, acknowledge the space. Give them permission to be visible, for their grief to be visible. And hopefully they'll give you that as well. Because if we can do that for each other, we can actually create a lot more unity. We sit with the truth, reconciliation will come. We sit with the truth. We sit with the grief. We sit with the uncomfort, the unrest. The healing will come. Cheers.